what just happened? I'll tell you what just happened. Ilia Topuria slumps Charles Oliveira in the first round to become the new UFC lightweight champion. Now, in case you didn't get the memo or read the bottom half of the screen, this is the No Glaze Nation. So I will be speaking objectively about the awesome wave of fresh air that this victory that Ilia Topuria had over Charles Oliveira left us with. I wanted to observe things from a more pretty objective point of view. See, Ilia Topuria is a featherweight. He's not the biggest featherweight. In fact, he's quite small for a featherweight, around Volkanovski's size. And Charles Oliveira is known as this lanky, sort of longer lightweight. He was once a featherweight as well, but very long, very rangy, super lean. And it just seemed as if even though Charles was the bigger man, he did not look that way in the cage. He did not seem to have that sort of presence and aura that you would think someone from a larger weight class that has been better acclimatized to fighting at that weight class would have against a short, up-and-coming person from a weight class below. But I'm going to say this. What Ilia Topuria did to Charles Oliveira is something no one has ever done before. Many have fought him. Many have beat him in emphatic fashion. Islam Makhachev, who was seen as the greatest lightweight of all time, who dominated and bulldozed Charles Oliveira, according to most people, did not have as nearly as easy of a time as Ilia Topuria did. So let's analyze the fight. They come out swinging heavy, both sides throwing heavy hands early. They get into a clinch situation. Oliveira starts to use his frame and longer height to sort of try to impose his will, but Topuria reverses it. They end up on the ground at one point. Ilia reverses a trip that Charles tried to do on him and ended up in top control. Charles scrambles, tries to go for a leg of Topuria. For a second, it looked like he might have had a leg lock, like Paul Harris-esque, but he didn't. Topuria fought out of it. His jiu-jitsu defense was very good, and I knew before coming into this fight he was not going to fear the ground game of Charles Oliveira. People often forget that Topuria his base is a grappling base. It's a very grappling-oriented base, and before he was knocking people out with his hands, and some might even say fell in love with his hands, he was predominantly a grappler. He comes from a long lineage of Georgian grapplers that have just sort of populated the UFC. I mean, we've seen it with Merab Dvalishvili. I'm not saying that Topuria is as consistent and as effective as a grappler as Merab, but it is something that he's very well versed in. Going into this fight, I knew he wasn't going to be able to sort of be smushed by Oliveira. And I'll tell you this, every time Topuria landed any clean combination, and you'll see it, if you go back and watch the fight, Oliveira was feeling it. He was showing it, which is a very, very dangerous thing to watch if you are a lightweight or even welterweight contender, because his power translates. And there was a lot of talk about Conor McGregor moving up and how Ilia Topuria was Conor McGregor-esque in his rise and how he won and vacated the featherweight title to go up and challenge a lightweight. But I'll say this, Conor was all about precision. Ilia Topuria is pure power. And Conor's power never fully translated to the higher weight classes. But I think that Ilia's strength and speed and just devastating punches just sort of follow him regardless of where he goes, and clearly has an impact regardless of what weight. I mean, do we feel as if Islam Makhachev, if taking the same shots he did take against Volkanovski, against Ilia, now knowing how powerful Ilia is, are we confident that he's able to implement his grappling game plan against Ilia? Are we confident that he doesn't get slumped like he once did against Adriano Martins? I know that was way back in the day. I know that was a long time ago. But Volkanovski landed a lot of clean shots on Islam Makhachev in their first fight. And do we feel confident in saying that if Ilia lands any of the same shots or is given any of the same sort of opportunities, that he doesn't put Islam Makhachev's lights out? Charles Oliveira looked good. I know a lot of people will say he didn't, that he looked scared. I thought he looked good. I thought he looked switched on, reactionary, very attentive, very locked in. But Ilia just had this physicality and presence that Charles did not expect from him. And you can see that when they're in the clinch, how easily Ilia was able to manipulate Charles against the cage. And it's interesting what goes on in the lightweight division now. Because, as I mentioned in my previous video, they are most 100% certainly going to do that Paddy Pimblett fight. Sorry, Arman, you blew your chance. Now go fight another 2-3 guys, and maybe if Ilia doesn't choose to go up to welterweight, you might get a title shot. But Paddy Pimblett's definitely the next way to go. Especially after that press conference, I said in my prediction video that this was the route they were going to take, that this was what they were going to do. And I think Ilia starches him. I think Paddy is too hittable. I think Michael Chandler is a laydown fight for any top-ranked lightweight. And we just haven't seen this kind of presence and physicality at lightweight. And I know it's crazy when discussing a former featherweight like this who was not even seen as a big featherweight, but you could see in the fight how devastating he was towards Charles. Charles never gets slumped. He's been TKO'd. He has been dropped several times. But when has he actually been knocked out? Chin, go limp, marks across his face. He woke up like he had just been abducted by aliens. No one does that to Charles Oliveira. So, after Ilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett, and assuming Islam Makhachev beats Jack Della Maddalena, they will almost certainly be looking for Ilia Topuria to fight Islam Makhachev. And I think he wins. I think he wins based on everything I just said, based on everything. You can guarantee that if Ilia Topuria's power translates with just another 10-pound weight difference, why wouldn't, what difference is another 15 pounds? The only problem Ilia is going to run into moving up and fighting these bigger guys is that he's smaller in stature. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of bigger opponents will be able to underestimate him and not see him as this force that he is. I believe Charles Oliveira did the same thing and paid for it. And ironically, I think Islam Makhachev is the most approachable fight stylistically for Ilia Topuria at 170 than any of the other matchups. Not saying he wouldn't win or couldn't win. I could see him catching a Kamaru Usman. I could see him catching a Bilal Muhammad or Jack Della Maddalena, but I just think Islam, based on what we've seen, struggles a bit of the striking, is hittable. Obviously, if he gets his hands on Ilia Topuria, it's a long night for Ilia, but at the same time, how many times can Islam Makhachev get hit clean by someone like Ilia Topuria? He's never faced that level of power in his life. They've got a new star on their hands. People often forget that Ilia Topuria is 28 years old. A fighter's prime starts collectively, agreed upon by most MMA fans, in a fighter's early to mid-30s. So, I would say Ilia Topuria has at least another good 5 years at the top of his game, which leaves plenty of time to improve. He is 28 and already has a legendary resume of a UFC Hall of Famer. Think about what he can accomplish in 5 years given how active and consistent and dominant he has been. I think we may very well be looking at the UFC's first triple champion. Featherweight, lightweight, welterweight. Conor McGregor teased it, and he could have possibly achieved it. I mean, after beating Eddie Alvarez, had he not gone away for that period of time, if he called out a Robbie Lawler, maybe, fresh off those wars with Rory McDonald and Carlos Condit, he could have caught Robbie Lawler and would have been the welterweight champion. But there's been talk of other plausible triple champions in the past. Most recently before this, Alex Pereira, who's 36, 37. He's on the downside of his career. Ilia has not even reached his prime yet. And he's disposing of these legends like fodder. And presumably staying very healthy. He's definitely doesn't seem to be picking up injuries in his fights. I think this is a wake-up call from everyone. For everyone. 155 and above. And I don't think I would pick a single fighter at 155 or 170 to beat Ilia Topuria in this point of his career. He's got that radiant aura and energy of confidence. And that's part of what makes him so dangerous. He walked into that octagon as if he was playing at a playground and he's a kid, as if he's Diddy and sees a whole closet full of baby oil. It's scary what this man can do, and he's still so young. So, my prediction, and it might seem like a bold one, I believe Ilia Topuria is going to be the UFC's first triple champion, and possibly, maybe, even the greatest of all time.